What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the weeds with the Algorand ecosystem and beyond. We've got Folks Finance CEO Benedetto with us here today. Folks has built out the largest DeFi platform on Algorand, but certainly they have representation across multiple different networks as well. I want to kind of dive in here. We're going to tackle a lot of different things, but I always like to start these with an intro. So Benedetto, if you could give me in the audience an intro of yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Folks, that'd be great.
Thanks, first of all, for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm Italian, from south of Italy. I went to Milan studying mechanical engineering, nothing related to crypto. That is my first bachelor. Later on, I was working as a mechanical designer, and I didn't like it at all. So, honestly, like I was on the laptop all day, and I would look at my boss, leading the team, talking with clients. I was like, I really feel I need to be on that side rather than this side behind the laptop. And I decided to take a master degree in innovation and management engineering. And that's where in one of the innovative IT course that was touching blockchain technology, I get to understand the tech. And then I was working as a project manager in a blockchain software house in Italy. And the software house was partner of Algorand as a dev shop. And simply I was following DeFi on Ethereum. That was 2020. And they said, hey guys, we're partner of Algorand. DeFi is booming on Ethereum. It's going to be in every other layer one. Why don't we build something on Algorand? That's how it started, basically. And this is a bit of history on how we kicked Folks, but I don't want to have it too long, but that's
sure.
How I get the role.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting, and I definitely want to walk through the platform that you guys have built here too, but I think one of the prevailing narratives, and it's not even really a narrative because it's actually happening, that we're seeing across blockchain and distributed ledger over the past 12 to 18 months is RWA and tokenization. And I'm curious just your thought process, because this stuff wasn't really happening. I mean, yeah, in 2020, we had a lot of DeFi stuff going on Ethereum. We kind of had Polygon and, doing their thing and other different kind of networks and layer twos. But we've seen a lot more with real world assets coming on chain. And I guess to open it up a little bit, what are your thoughts about how DeFi is going to serve some of these tokenized real world assets, like in the future, once we have the compliance that we need and everything else?
Yeah, you put it there very smart already, like you're already understanding that we need the compliance part. But in general, like I have a feeling that is just thinking about the crypto bull cycles, in the previous cycle, meme coins started to exist, but they didn't drive the growth. It was the NFT cycle. And now we have it, right? Like the meme coin kind of fueled like the previous pump. And it's very interesting that, like we had threes of those in the previous cycle. So I think now we are feeling the same with their WA. Like we are starting to feel their power. They are coming on chain. They are not too much used in a permissionless way. I mean that we can't really touch it too much on DeFi. So I think that we are preparing this in order that in the next cycle, they are going to be the driver. And I imagine this because also like I consider that in 2 cycles ago, we had the NFTs pump. Now we had the meme coin pump. So imagine if the next pump is actually something that is real, right? So we switched from, whatever, like to something that we can touch. So I believe in this narrative personally. I think it's reasonable. And in order to get there, it's very simple, in my opinion. We need DeFi adjusting a bit with the compliance to get to be able to touch those things. Personally, I care a lot that folks goes towards this this way, that it doesn't mean that we are gonna drop or not consider at all anymore the permissionless part. Yes, we want, but there is a need of a middle ground where you have AML, KYC, so that you can list assets that are considered securities for accredited investor, and you are able to connect those to also the permissionless market. That's where I see the power of it, because to be honest, if we had to do everything permissioned, why we need to use a public blockchain? At this point, let's start to use a private ledger of a bank, and that's it. But I do think that as DeFi should be compliant a bit with what institutions need in order to be able to leverage those tools that they are bringing on chain. So I think it will happen in this way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. And I think kind of like big picture wise, and I think your viewpoint's really interesting too, because I think it's like, what's kind of the prevailing things that are driving these cycles? And there's been so much work. Like, you can go to sites even, that are like aggregators for RWAs on chain. Like, I know RWA XYZ does an okay job at compiling stuff. And like, you look right now, and I think it's been going up. So I'm going to get the number wrong, but I think it's like 20 billion, probably somewhere around there, RWAs tokenized. And I'm sure they're missing some of those. That's going to look very different, because I'm sure you've had these discussions. It even seems like the biggest players that are way more reserved in the ways that they talk about adoption are now, over the past handful of months, understanding that like the writing's on the wall, basically saying everything's going to be tokenized in the future. It's just a matter of time. But I think what's even more interesting is like the necessity to have accessibility on different networks. So I see X-Chain for you guys right now, and I would imagine like in the future, as RWAs are tokenized, you're almost going to be able to like pathfind for liquidity on different networks, just like you would pathfind for liquidity with a payment in the banking system that's happening right now with crypto as well. Talk about the cross-chain kind of approach here that you guys have developed, and why you feel like it's gonna be important in the future.
Yeah. So first of all, like, I really think that like DeFi has a very short life, right? It's like 5 years if we want to extend it to the very beginning, a little bit less. But imagine how it evolved over time, right? Like, we had the DeFi on Ethereum, then the big Ethereum protocols like Aave, Uniswap started to fork and create copies in every chain. Then the liquidity on the other layer 1 or layer 2s started to be fragmented. And now we are feeling the problem of having this fragmentation, right? We are definitely not going to scale this industry if every time that we need to pass an asset from one chain to another needs to go through the exchange. So you have the centralized point, and then I don't know, if you use bridges, you have a wrapped version of a wrapped version. It's a mess, to be honest, right? This isn't something that is going to bring the ease of use that we need in order to scale. So also, like, for us was more of we've been building folks on Algorand, and we wanted to scale it, right? We believe that we build very good tools, and we want to deliver these tools somewhere else as well, right? To enlarge the audience. And we face the problem that being a non-EVM native protocol, it was impossible for us to just fork and go to another chain. That's what we would have done if we were on Ethereum, right? Which I don't know if it's good or not, but it's an easy solution. But in the end, all of those projects that does this, they will face the problem down the line of having this fragmentation of their liquidity across multiple networks, and a very frictioned UI of switching a position from a network to another. Like right now, if you have a LOAN open even on Aave, and this LOAN is on Ethereum, and you want to switch this LOAN to another chain, it's a mess. You need to repay, withdraw the collateral, bridge the collateral, or swap, whatever you want to do, and then open the new loan in the other chain. Well, with our cross-chain approach, this is totally solved. So the way it works is that being able to interoperate smart contract on different chains using messaging layers, we are allowing users to connect all the chains that they want based on the one that we support, and collateralize and borrow on different networks seamlessly. Not wrapping, not paying gas fees on multiple network. So the experience is very, very easy. And it unlocks a lot of new utilities that weren't able to do before. For example, let's say, I don't know, you want to do, there is a new launch of a token on Avalanche, but you have your assets on Ethereum. You don't want to go through all the process of bringing it there. You just collateralize on Ethereum and borrow the USDC on Avalanche, and you're going to use it to buy the token you need, right? So it's simplifying a lot the use of funds. Plus, another thing that brings, which is very important in the cross-chain part in general, because this is also with the DEXs, is the liquidity efficiency. So with DEXs, the way you have this, usually you have one chain and multiple DEX. So in DeFi, we started to build DEX aggregator. And then we had the problem, okay, but we have many chains and many DEX. So we built cross-chain DEX aggregator. So you are able to route your swap across multiple DEX and multiple chains. Therefore, like the output of the swap, that is what the end user cares, is the cheapest as possible, right? If I'm swapping, I'm carrying it one click and I'm wasting like the less money I'm paying, right? So it's a big change. And the same is with the lending. So if we look, for example, at Aave, the USDC pools, this is our USDC pool in every chain, and this liquidity is not accessible from a pool to another, right? So it's in a sense wasted, because if all this liquidity were pooled into one single pool, you would be able to take better loans, meaning that you can take bigger loans with the same amount of liquidity in the pool, because it's concentrated in one rather than fragmented. And the pool is more stable in general, because it's better to have one big pool rather than 10 smaller fragmented, right? So that's what we are doing with Folks. So there are cross-chain assets like USDC or Solve BTC that we are able to create concentrated, aggregated liquidity pool into one single network rather than having it fragmented all over. And it's amazing how you can borrow those as well, because since it's using a messaging layer, like USDC uses CCTP, and for example, Solve BTC uses CCAP, one click and you can have it in the destination chain that you prefer.
I'm curious your take on this, because I have kind of thoughts on maybe what might shake out in the future, but what do you think the role of centralized exchanges is going to be, 5-10 years from now, compared to like decentralized exchanges? And and I don't know, I'm sure it's a mixture of a bunch of different stuff, like, but as the user experience, and I know that's a big focus for you guys, just having as much tooling as possible to really interact however you want to interact and make things super streamlined and efficient. But do you think that centralized exchanges might run into like a little bit of an issue of not being able to necessarily compete with some of the decentralized exchanges in the future? Like,
yes, I totally see this, also because during the last fall, I think it was end of November or the beginning of the winter, especially with the Trump launch, the meme coin, volume of DEXs were higher than centralized exchange. So I think like we already have seen a break-even situation, right? Like scenario. This is already demonstrated that it's going to work. And again, I like to always stress this. Think how young is DeFi compared to CeFi and then TradFi, but how fast is growing, right? So I think that we haven't seen the final version of DeFi, so it's like the speed of building and delivering a product is very different. Which in general, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be better than exchange or exchange are going to not exist, but I think it's being demonstrated that DeFi is taking more and more markets, and I think exchange keeps demonstrating how, forgive me the word, but how bad they are. I mean, like, I don't know if you have launched a token,
No.
but I'm about to do one, and it's not that nice to deal with exchanges.
Yeah.
It's like people really don't understand it. I wish we would have DeFi alternatives that can bring the same volume of exchange. So I wish users would start to trade more on DeFi, because what is behind the scene, the end user doesn't see it, but it's not nice. And I don't want to comment more on it. It's just not what we are here for. We are not here for this type of business, which is polluted and unhealthy. DeFi is not perfect, but is so much better.
Well, DeFi is democratized. It's like and I won't dive too deep into the weeds because I know you don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, but I 1000% agree with you. I think it's a huge pain point in this industry where it's like we're in an industry where we talk about democratization of finance and access into basically putting power in the hands of the individual, depending on however that individual wants to interact, whatever that individual's individual circumstances are, education level is, anything. It's the power in the hands of the individual. And I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people don't kind of see the gatekeeping and things like that occur where we're talking about decentralization, but there's these critical centralized points that stop us from actually fulfilling the vision of decentralization. And it's like super hypocritical, and it's kind of ironic too. So yeah, I have a similar viewpoint. The roles, especially with like meaningful compliance and as that stuff comes about with decentralized exchanges and these aggregators, I think they're going to potentially be able to eat the lunches of some of the centralized exchanges, or at least I would hope so. And then, people get to choose whatever they want to do. I think in that vein, though, we have to get to a point of user experience just being stupid simple. I think that is one of the strong suits of the centralized exchanges still. They're normally pretty easy to engage with or understand what you're doing. How are you guys tackling the user experience aspect as far as, and I'll pull it up right now. I know that you have a lot of education initiatives too.
Yeah. No, but that's, I agree with you. And that's why we need bold moves from builders. That's why we need the, Folks Finance betting on something that no one has built before, like the exchange product, which is like extremely innovative, like trying to get our DeFi, as an industry, above the current bar, right? Like it's important to do so because if we really want to bring the experience of the end user to the next level, we need to be bold. Like we can simply say, okay, like this app works, it's fine, it's okay, we'll go with it, and the user will learn. I really think that education is needed now, and you are showing how we care about it, because it's hard to use and we cannot say it's easy to use. Therefore, you need to educate users, and we built the academy under this purpose. For us, the academy has the tutorial part where you can learn how to use Folks Finance, but also like basic pills on how to learn about crypto, like from really like what is Bitcoin, what is a smart contract, like different things that educates the users before starting to enter the journey. Ideally, in a few years, this won't be needed anymore. I think that that can happen if we keep delivering at the speed that we are doing now.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point. maybe just your take on that, because I know that one of the things that I see a lot of more recently is like really like the account abstraction, abstracting away the technology. Do you think in 10 or 15 years people are going to be like having to understand what a blockchain is, or do you think it's almost like right now, like me understanding what TCP/IP is, or like, you know, how the underlying infrastructure of like interoperability occurs for me to be able to send you an email from Google to a Yahoo address, like address. Like I just
know this, right? Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, that's the same. You're totally right. I believe that we need to build more mobile app that are really abstracting the network and the chain, and just simplify it, and then the users will just use it because it's good to use and it's bringing some benefit to their life. They don't need to learn about the tech.
Now I was watching Algorand, the foundation put out a cool interview with you guys. I don't know if I have it somewhere in here, but one of the things that I found interesting in it was like tokenized gold and silver, and I think it's super relevant right now, especially given what's going on with kind of gold and stuff like that. But what are some of the things that you guys offer on the site? Obviously, I'll preface not financial advice on my end, but what are some of the things that you guys offer on the site, whether it's tokenized gold and silver or Algorand specific things that you can do within the ecosystem, just kind of in general?
Yeah. So we were actually the first lending protocol listing tokenized gold and silver as a collateral to borrow against it. So we were very early. I think we did that in 2023 in the fall. But in general, we look at DeFi right now as the way of doing decentralized crypto trading or leverage, right? But obviously, we mentioned it that tokenization is something that we are not going to stop, and more assets will come on chain. And from our perspective, like, as we would love to have even more, but the problem is that sometimes or they are considered securities or they are permissioned. So, you know, like, this is more on the builder side to be able to create, like in that case, like we had melt gold and melt silver that was tradable on the AMMs. So we were able to list it, and you know, the impact that you have, like I remember we had users saying, that's fantastic, I use it to buy and invest in gold and silver on my Revolut, but I can't use it as a collateral to borrow against it. I can do it a few clicks on Fox. And that's when you understand the impact that DeFi can have over traditional finance. So yes, that's one of the things that we did. In general, to summarize the offering, folks as on Algorand, lending, swaps, staking, leverage trading, and leverage liquid staking. In general, our product is centered around the lending, and our lending protocol is really good compared to others in the industry. And we are able to compose those, for example, lending and swaps. We build leverage trading. It's not a new tool, like in terms of smart contracts. It's just a composition of the existing contracts that allows like looping underneath. And same is for the leverage liquid staking. And yeah, basically, like the assets that are listed, you can see here, there are different versions of ALGO, like ALGO and XALGO are the main now. GALGO is sunsetting. And then we have USDC, different wrapped version of Ethereum and Bitcoin. Then there is a bunch of other wrapped assets, and gold and silver, of course. Then we have the liquid staking, which is, I think it's by far the most used in the ecosystem with XALGO. And a very cool thing is that you can do ultra stake. So it's this leverage tool that is leverage, but without risk on the price, because the collateral you are using is XALGO, which is the interest-bearing version of ALGO. So it's growing in value. So you don't have a risk due to the price fluctuation. And then you have ultra swap, which is built at the same way, but with other assets. But there you have the risk of liquidation due to the volatility. And then we have X-Chain, which is born under the same narrative, so centric on the lending. So we built the cross-chain lending protocol, and right now is on Avalanche, Base, Ethereum, BNB, Arbitrum, and Polygon. And we added the cross-chain swaps. We use Li-Fi for that, and soon we will keep adding tool under the same narrative of the Algorand products, because we find it nice that the user can do everything in one place.
I'm curious your take, because I know I've like heard stories in some of these interviews just about like access into the financial system, banking the unbanked, like kind of the ethos of Web3 kind of in general, and what it's going to represent to a lot of underserved populations. Like, and I'll put it in the context where I remember doing an interview like a year ago, and it was like a gaming blockchain space, and there was a guy that was like literally saying on the stream that like there's people that were playing games in blockchain that just what they were receiving for free from playing the game was like enough to like literally feed their family, which I think is like a crazy story to like even tell, like from an empowerment standpoint. What are your thoughts on how DeFi is really going to kind of change people's access and abilities to like, boost up their own kind of, financial situations or situations in general in the future?
Really powerful. Like, you need to consider that in developing countries, a lot of people, they already store their their earnings, their savings into USDC or USDT in stablecoin. This is already a big change for them, where there are countries where continuously over a year there is inflation, and the value of the unit of their currency is always less. Consider what a big opportunity is for them to already have access simply to a stablecoin. Then arrives DeFi, and imagine you can make a simple 5, 6, 7% yield by simply lending it, so you can withdraw it anytime. So you understand that even like $100, like $10 for those people can means money, can means living out of it. So it's I see it's like a very big life-changing tool in many countries. Then probably those are not the one who brings the TVL to billions. Okay, like you need so many users, but man, even if it's one person that is impacting their life, I'm honestly happy, because I mean, I've visited the developing countries, and like we look at crypto. I mean, I'm from Italy. I live all over the world, and obviously, like I tend to live in developed countries. But when we look in the developed countries at crypto, we see it is an investment. Okay, we will buy the Lambo, and we will have better tech. Okay, but in other countries, this is like really life changing. It's like an alternative that for all their life they haven't seen, and there's a a light of going out of the system, which is not to buy the Lambo, it's to live, just live.
Yeah, and I mean, in that context too, like if you look at like a lot of these underserved populations, the majority of people do have cell phones. You know what I mean? Like across the globe, there's a lot of people that have cell phones. But as you stated, like I've had the opportunity, I don't know how many countries I've been to, probably 20 or so. And we were in like Central America, and you start going to some areas in Central America, and you start going to some areas, even in Asia and stuff like that. And I mean, I remember, I won't name the country, but I remember one country in particular when I was in the Navy. We couldn't even like go out in the town, because like we had to take a bus basically to like this one tiny little area that was almost like a little mini mall. But as we were driving, you literally see just like almost like tents popped up, and like blankets on the ground, basically, like for sleeping, and it's just like crazy to witness. So yeah, I'm super excited about kind of seeing, people being able to have access and empower themselves. And like you mentioned, totally agree. Even if one person is better served, great. I want to get into some of the milestones that you guys have had. I have pulled up on the screen here kind of the TVL aspects. What are some other areas that you guys are really kind of excited about that you've achieved through Folks Finance? And yeah.
I mean, like, every time we mainnet with a new product is an achievement. And we've been on mainnet for 3 years. We celebrated a few weeks ago, which is big. I mean, you're showing myself on Forbes. Like, this is not that relevant for me, but it's nice to see that people acknowledge the good work. Like I think the team does this for a mission of impacting the industry, of doing well. Then the awards comes. We won like many pitch competition or awards in general. It's pleasant. It gives us more, let's say, more power to do better. But it's not that we do it for this type of recognition. But the best thing is, to be honest, like when you receive comments from the community. I don't know, like last conference I was in Paris. I had not even like the Folks hoodie with me, but people would stop me and say, "Oh, you are from Folks Finance. I love your product. I love to use it. I farm on Folks." I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like having a product that really brings some use and people have fun in using it. It's the biggest milestone. Then obviously, like, we have a big roadmap ahead. There are so many things that we are doing, like the mobile app, the debit card, our token launch. So there's so many things that are coming. But like, we are a builder team. We keeps grinding on the product, and we never stop. This is like our best strength in order to like, I think it's marketing through product.
Yep. And I think one of the things that's interesting, I interviewed Joseph from Parawallet maybe like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. I put out a post like yesterday that's like, pay attention to the people that are, the markets crypto may seem boring right now, but like definitely pay attention to the people that aren't acting like crypto is and blockchain and distributed ledger is boring. Like the accounts that are really active, because what normally ends up happening is like when stuff starts picking back up, you see the same old people that like are super inactive, and then all of a sudden they're like back in the space and all this other stuff. And I know you guys have initiatives going with Para right now as well, and it's like builders are just going to build and continue trying to innovate in the space and make their platforms better and start and try to network and connect with people. What's it been like in Algorand and then kind of beyond for you guys, like networking wise and just developing relationships? We were talking even before this about all the relationships that you guys have developed, and what's that been like for you?
Oh man, it's consider that it's since the very beginning of Folks, I started to travel for conferences, and basically right now we can reach anything we need in terms of connection. If we don't have, I can get one, because like the network is big. And I was interesting, like a few days ago, the marketing team was doing a report and saying that the marketing is working super hard, like in terms of doing campaigns with others and doing partnership collaboration, because you have to consider that once you are in one ecosystem, it's easier in a sense, because you do like ecosystem focused marketing. And imagine for us, like, I mean, we never had the huge push from someone special, because we started from we had support from VCs, but we worked our ass up there. So but once you get to be the largest on a chain, then obviously you have recognition from this. So we worked hard to get there, but when we arrived there, we already had partnership with everyone. Basically, I remember once we launched our first liquid version of ALGO, GAlgo. I mean, we pushed it so hard to be integrated in almost all the apps in the ecosystem, and it was amazing. And we built a revenue share model that everyone would be involved in the process. And let's say like once you are in a chain, it's kind of easier. It's not easy, but it's easier than when you are across multiple networks that are competing with each other, and sometimes the community doesn't like each other. So we had to do a big rework there, and I think Ibu, our CMO, and the team did a very good job, because again, like after like a lot of months of working hard, like consider that the new product went out in October. So from October till now, we had to do a big switch in the way we would work, especially the marketing, I would say. And yeah, and like a few days ago, the report was like, guys, it's interesting that before we had to reach out to people to do campaign together, and now they reach out to us that they want to do it with us. And before we had to pull up a price, and now they want to pull up the giveaway to work with us. So this is like my way of trying to to inspire the team to say, guys, let's keep working for good way. Because if you are professional and if you work well, like things gets to be on your way and helping you naturally. You don't have to force too much. So I think like seeing this change in the marketing was good to hear from you. Like I was like, okay, we are working well.
I think that's kind of a testament to, I mean, this is just my opinion, and I've seen this, and I believe this. I think that's 99% of projects would be much better served, no matter what the project is, to do the groundwork and develop relationships instead of paying like an influencer to talk about their talk about their platform. Because it's like, the number one, people that have been in the industry for a while understand when they're trying to be sold to versus whenever they're, when there's something that's actually built that they can use to their advantage. Like there's a clear difference. And I think when you mention it, you bring up a really interesting point. Like if you lay the groundwork and develop relationships with other builders, that is then just kind of its own engine of support. And I don't know, marketing in crypto always kind of amazes me, like the way that people go about it. And I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I want to.
We've been almost a bit outside the like the mass, the way the marketing in crypto sometimes done is also like very silly, in my opinion. So we were always like thinking like, okay, we do the good work, like we will get people to talk about why this is good, like, and we think on how to share what we generate with others. Like I really agree with you, like because like I'll give you this example. Like when we fundraised the first round, $3 million, and we launched the mainnet. So before the mainnet, it's not that you do the huge marketing, right? Okay, maybe now it's different, but before it wasn't like this too much. But I remember the launch was 1 week before the Terra Luna crash.
Oh,
so like it wasn't easy. Like, and we could have thought, okay, let's invest money in the marketing and let's do some campaign, whatever. But instead we invested everything in the product, man, and we worked all the year ahead, working to improve the product, to build new feature, and we would see it growing naturally, right? And when the bull cycle came back, we would see the blooming of it, because like we invested the money in order to have 5 products, rather than maybe someone else would have invested the money to have, I don't know, like 10 influencers picking them, and okay, it's last for the time it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's reciprocal value. I mean, if you sit back and think about what's going to create more of a feedback loop into the platform we're building, is it, is it one tweet and two retweets and a quote tweet from some random person, or is it, here's an actual product that we've built that is going to just continuously drive, people
I
into
think
it.
you need both,
For
but
sure. Oh, for
very
sure.
very weighted. Like there is a time where you maybe need a good product 100%, and you start to do like 90 tabs. I think it's depends on where you are and what stage, and it changes. It's something that I'm learning in the process, and like also I've been told that like there are I don't know, CEOs that can lead companies in the small phase, and they're good for that phase, and there are others that are specific for the growth phase. Man, it's my first experience as a CEO, so I don't know the other phases, but like I go all in. I tend to what is the phase, and I hope that I'm gonna be able to bring folks to the largest as possible phase, and I'm trying to adapt and learn by doing. But it's very different in every phase. I can confirm this. Like I live it on my own skin.
100%. I mean, I'm right there with you. Never done anything like what I'm doing right now before, and it's like, I think sometimes even the biggest pain point is like you're not gonna that I have to sit back and be like, I cannot be physically involved in every single thing that happens in order to kind of really take stuff to the next level, but I'm not going to go get on my soapbox here. I would love if you could kind of walk us out with, what you're excited about for, building on Algorand, building on these different networks, the state of the industry in general. And yeah, super, super appreciative of your time today. So
Thank you. I mean, exciting. I hope that the market gets to have a switch, and this is not too dependent from politics, to be honest. Because I feel it's like a bit like we are gambled, and that's not nice when you build for a mission, right? Like I would like things to be a little bit more natural, like there is a good product who is doing well. The top affiliate is not going to be the new Terra Luna that drives adoption, rather than a meme coin that is lasting for a few weeks, right? So I hope to see this change. Overall, I'm happy the market is holding. I'm happy that crypto was being performing good compared to like even stocks in a sense. This demonstrates the reliability, and in general, what I'm bullish is that I think this cycle more than the previous. When people are joining now crypto, for example, even let's say even with the meme coins, like they most of the time they join meme coin through non-custodial wallet or DeFi, right? So they do a swap on a DEX, and right now, once they do this, they find around the simple entering the meme coin an ecosystem that is much more mature than the previous cycle.
Yep.
And it's much easier to use. So I believe that what we are retaining in terms of new users, that newcomers to the industry, is going to be much higher than the previous cycle, simply because like DeFi was at the very, very beginning before. So yeah, I think I'm bullish on this. I'm bullish in the development of the technologies, things that we mentioned, account abstraction, abstraction of gas fees, things that are happening under the hood. We are going to have better product, and yeah, like just bring more users. I really want DeFi to beat exchange.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really interesting point where I think crypto's been around since 2009, and even today it's obviously like extremely just kind of transactional. Like here's a wallet, here's a digital asset, you do whatever you're going to do with the digital asset. I totally agree with you though, and I think we are starting to see like the base layer of like a shift into more like experiences. Like, yeah, the transactional part of crypto is always going to be there. It's one aspect of it, but I think it's going to be more about like experiences throughout these ecosystems that you can get involved with. You know, maybe we do see the ultimate fruition of like an NFT resurgence where NFTs almost operate as, you know, a gateway into some experience or something, which was kind of the promise that, you know, whatever. And I remember back in 2021 too, like maybe we see a resurgence of like actual metaverse stuff, but like metaverses are kind of funny because like everybody, that was at the peak layer of hype where it was like, here's a trailer, a movie trailer, like for a metaverse that didn't exist. And everybody's like, this is a great idea. Where do I sign up? I'm interested in like the experiences that come out of the back end of the technology too, though. And I think we're starting to kind of see that. But Benedetto, I thought it was an awesome discussion today. I would love to bring you back on in the future for, you know, some cross-chain stuff or as you guys have more announcements. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. A pleasure for me here. I really enjoyed the conversation as well.